Evening, everybody. Ollie Richards here. Los Laureles. Very, very good. Probably my new favourite coffee. I would love to visit Los Laureles. But I probably won't. So I'm just going to buy their coffee beans instead. Excellent. I've started making sure that when I brew coffee, it's at 87 degrees exactly. The thing is, I like hot drinks, and 87 is not that hot. But the thing is, you can taste so much more of the coffee when it's 87 rather than like just off the boil or even like 95. So brew your coffee at 87 degrees. Pour a bit of water in your mug 5 minutes before to heat the mug, so this coffee stays at that temperature for longer, and it does the job. I know that's what you tuned into this live stream to find out. Unsolicited advice about making coffee. What's on the radio? More Keith Jarrett this time. Keith Jarrett and Charlie Hayden. A duo album called Last Dance that they made back in 2015, I believe. They're both getting on a bit now. So it was interesting for me to hear this. I didn't realise this was out. They play a lot of old classics. My Old Flame, My Ship, Round Midnight, Dance of the Infidels. Might as well be spring. Everything happens to me. Some really fantastic, cracking, you might say, standards in this album. Gotta say, they're not what they used to be. Jarrett's a bit slow, Hayden's a bit sloppy, but there's a lot of soul in that record. So I heartily recommend that. And what else have we got? Yes, if you are learning Spanish or interested in Spain or Latin America or anything like that, then happening right now this week is the Spanish Experience Summit, and you are missing it as we speak. Not to give you undue amounts of FOMO or anything, but that is what is going on. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share my screen to show you what's happening, because you've still got 3 days left to catch. Here we go. 3 days left to catch the Spanish Experience Summit. It's an online event with 25 fantastic speakers who've been featured all over the world. People are loving it. You're going to get all these different presentations on learning Spanish, traveling Spain and South America, and retiring there as well. Tickets are free. We've got a big schedule of stuff. I'm speaking on Friday, I think. Look at this. Look at all these fantastic people talking. We've got Nacho talking about cómo salir del purgatorio de nivel intermedio. For all you French speakers out there. We've got Mikel talking about what every new expat ought to know about money, citizenship, and tax. All this. Anyway, a lot of great stuff. So if you like the idea of traveling around Spain and South America, or even living there, or learning Spanish or whatever, then hotfoot it over to SpanishExperienceSummit.com and register for your free ticket. SpanishExperienceSummit.com, free ticket, and it's only this week, so it finishes on Friday, but you can still catch a bunch of it if you so desire. All right then. What are we talking about today? We've got a question from Raegan. Raegan Logan on a YouTube video asks an interesting question. He says, here's a question, he says, just to make clear it's a question. He says, how important is it to try and think in the language regularly? Is it worthwhile spending time trying to operate as if you were a native speaker, thinking as if you've been raised like so? I think this kind of gets to the question of how do you think in the language, right? Because most people, when they're learning a language, they have this experience of always translating in their head, and it's really frustrating, isn't it? Because you want to be able to think in the language, but you're always translating in your head. And so this question kind of gets at, like, is it worthwhile trying to spend time operating as if you were a native speaker? The thing is, I don't know how you would go about doing that. How would you go about operating as if you were a native speaker. I mean, the only way that I think you can really do that is by making sure that your surroundings are as native speaker-like as possible. So, if you're learning Spanish, then make sure that all the stimuli that you have around you are Spanish, and then your brain is naturally going to be kind of coaxed into thinking in the language more. I think it's very difficult to suddenly decide to start to do that, and I'm not sure how you would do it. I would kind of think of it more in terms of that being a consequence as much as anything else. So, I've got to a stage in a few of my languages where I dream in that language, and that's always a very funny experience, and it comes as a result of being exposed to that language for a long time. It's not the other way around, right? It's not that I decide to dream in the language and then I do it, or I decide to think in the language, so I do. It's the product of spending time immersed in the language. So, for example, if you're reading my books and you are doing it every day, and then you're watching TV in the language, and then you are texting your friends in the language, your brain will start to adapt to that language after a while, and you'll find that you'll start to have thoughts in that language. So I think the key is really just to try to orientate all of your daily activities to be in that language as much as possible, and then keep it up consistently, and you will find that you start to think about stuff over time. Really, I think that's probably all you can do. It's certainly hard to start to think in the language if all you're doing is like Duolingo or learning grammar rules and stuff, because it's all too theoretical. You've got to try and bring your life into this new language, live in this parallel universe, if you like, and then everything will happen after that. For me, reading has always been the most powerful thing, but watching a lot of TV can also help in a funny way, providing that you're doing something more worthwhile alongside it. I remember when I was learning Cantonese, I watched like all 80 episodes of Triumph in the Skies, and I was starting to think in Cantonese by the end of it, because it was just so much exposure to the language. So yeah, hope that helps, Raegan. Good question. Couple of questions here on the live stream. Hey Richard, hi Matthew. Let's see what they have to say. So Richard says, I'm going to add it to the broadcast here. That's cool. What do you think about Asimil? I would like to learn Russian, and I know it brings you to intermediate level. I've never liked Asimil personally, and the reason is that it feels too stuffy and formal. I will caveat this by saying that I haven't used it extensively, but certainly whenever I've looked at it before, it's good in the sense that there's lots of text, but it's all very kind of old-fashioned formal type stuff. Like that's always the feeling that I've had about it, not the kind of more conversational language that I'm looking for. So I'm not their biggest fan, but lots of people are. I will say that lots of people love Asimil and swear by it. So I wouldn't pay any attention to me. What I would encourage you to do is to get a bunch of resources, compare them, and see which one you like the best. We were actually talking the other day internally about starting work on a Russian Uncovered course soon, but that won't be available anytime soon. Richard, you'll be fluent in Russian by the time we're done with that. So yeah, I would look at a few Russian courses. I think there is a lack of Russian courses out there. From what I know, people don't seem to be able to find many good courses. So it might be a case of not letting the great get in the way of the good. If you've got a solid course, then go ahead and use that. Right, next question. Matthew says, I would like to learn Hebrew and Thai as I'm currently in Thailand. Cool. In addition, I would like to learn Chinese in the future. I did have plans to. I kind of cut off. And he follows up below, how would you go about learning 3 at the same time? Is it practical or not? No, it's not practical, man. You can, and people do. but you just won't get anywhere with any of them. So, since you're living in Thailand, I take advantage of this opportunity to be in Thailand and learn Thai, because just being there and being surrounded by the language is ดีมากผมชอบมากภาษาไทย. And if you want a recommendation for a good language school, go to the Suma Language and Culture Institute in Bangkok. On my YouTube channel, in case you haven't seen it already, I've got, when I learnt Thai, I recorded the whole 2-week, day by day, blow by blow documentary about how I learned Thai. So it's there for you if you're interested. And I learnt at the Suma Language and Culture Institute with Kru Nu, who is my teacher, and she's absolutely amazing. So if you're in Bangkok, search them out, tell them I sent you. You might get a free cup of coffee or something. Tons of questions here. Hi, Chanel. Jamie, or is it Jaime, says, I'm living in China and I'm interested in some of your short stories, but I can only get the ebooks. I'd like to have the physical copies. Can you ship to China? And if so, where can I buy the books? Ooh, interesting question. Jaime, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's Jaime or Jamie, but I don't know. Do Amazon not deliver to China? Maybe not. You might need to... Maybe you could look at a Amazon Taiwan or a Taiwanese bookseller and get them shipped across. I'm not sure, but if you can't find anything, drop me an email, ollie@iwillteachyoualanguage.com, and I will follow up with the publishers and see what we can do for you. Okay, I'd like to help you out, because the books are, forgive me, but the books are absolutely beautiful, and there's nothing like. Doesn't that make you feel like you're in Italy? A big purple building and a yellow ice cream. Anyway, there is nothing like the physical versions. I will agree with you. So drop me an email and we'll see what we can do. George says, is Greek on the horizon with regards to your short story books? Yes, it is. I am slowly but surely twisting the arm of Teach Yourself, of the publishers, and I have conveyed the need for a Greek book. They kind of call the shots with this. I have influence, but not that much. So they agree. I'm pushing certain languages at the moment, and Greek is one of them. So yeah, there you go. Your coffee sucks. Is that directed at me? I'm talking to him. This coffee, I will guarantee you, does not suck. Anyway, Roy. Loads of questions today, guys. Wow, this is awesome. Thanks for being so cool. How can I work on my pronunciation with my teacher effectively? I'm learning French. Pronunciation. It's one of those difficult ones. So with pronunciation, I always draw a distinction between pronunciation and accent in the sense of working on it, right? Pronunciation being the idea that you need to be able to pronounce the individual sounds of the language correctly, and every language has a finite set of sounds, and then you need to be able to pronounce them effectively. That is like a kind of pretty mechanical thing where you sometimes have to learn tongue position and jaw position and throat whatever, not position, how you use your throat and all of that. Excuse me. So that's pronunciation. But with accent, I'm choking on my coffee. With accent, that's more like this is more difficult, because accent and intonation is more about as you're speaking. How far, to what extent can you actually draw on all of the pronunciation that you've learned and actually have a good accent when you speak? And that's much more difficult. I think that it starts with awareness. So I would find a teacher who is good with accents. The way that I like to do it is actually listen back to myself regularly, right? So I like to really hold up a mirror and get as brutal as possible with how good my pronunciation is. So I like to record myself speaking and listen back, and then have my teacher kind of point out where it could be more natural. But alongside that, there's also the thing of listening as much as possible, because the more you listen, the more your pronunciation is going to be affected. I think it's a very difficult thing to do, and I think you do need a good teacher to help with that. So that's probably not much help. But without knowing more about your situation, Roy, it's difficult to give more advice. French is a difficult one with pronunciation, for sure. Your coffee suck seems to be trolling me. Do your worst. All right then, Matthew. Hey Matthew. Last time we spoke privately on Facebook, we discussed making people laugh in a foreign language. Is this an area you have expertise on? How hard have you found it to make people laugh when speaking their tongue? Oh, I mean, I'm not the funniest guy in the world, as I'm sure I don't need to point out. I tend to copy people in other languages. Is what I tend to do. So I tend to find, I kind of have role models, if you like, someone who I imitate and try to be like in the foreign language, in terms of like trying to say the things that they say, use the phrases that they use, and copy the sense of humor that they have. The thing about a sense of humor is you kind of really, it's not until you get to a fairly high level that can really start to kick in. Because the thing about a sense of humor is you've got to have delivery and all of that, and you've got to be able to kind of work quite freely within the language. So I personally, I'd say I probably wouldn't worry about it too much until you get to a higher level, and then I would probably try to think about imitation and just try to kind of model yourself on a particular person, and try to kind of follow, use their figure out what's idiosyncratic about them and try to model that. But it's not something I've thought a great deal about. I'm not sure I have a very good answer. I mean, I know funny people who can make people laugh in other languages without hardly being able to speak it. So it might just be a case of like, kind of, humor's a funny thing, I've never really understood it. You're either funny or you're not, I think, and I'm not. So I'm probably the worst person to ask. Kara, hi Kara. Will there be a Grammar Hero course for Turkish in the near future? I would love to say yes, but I think it's probably a no, I'm afraid. I just don't have a big Turkish learning audience. Although Nikki Crane asked me about that recently. Not sure. We do, of course, have the Turkish short stories. So that might be a substitute, Kara. But Grammar Hero, yeah, I don't think we'll be making any Turkish material anytime soon, I'm afraid. So many questions here, guys. Let's crank through all of them. Let's do this. Gabriel says, how to make learning verbs more fun and effective. Stop learning verbs. Honestly, start reading. Stop learning verbs. I mean, you can look up the meaning in the dictionary, but just stop trying to memorize stuff, because it will bore you to death and you'll forget it later. So instead, start to read as much as possible, and don't worry about the verbs. And then as soon as you stop worrying, you'll find that they start to make sense in your brain. I know it doesn't I know it's kind of counterintuitive, but that's definitely the long-term way through it. Morning Island. Hey. Morning spelt with M-O-U-R. Interesting. Wonder what's behind that. So Morning Island says, I just finished Japanese Conversations chapter 20 today. Fantastic. Congratulations. It's been great. Now I'm going to focus on speaking, particularly pitch accent. My plan of action is lots of shadowing. Okay, cool. Yeah, pitch accent. So if you just finished Conversations, then you are kind of intermediate-ish level. I wouldn't worry too much about pitch accent, honestly. I've never thought much about it in Japanese, and I mean, my Japanese is not amazing or anything, but I think in terms of, in the hierarchy of things to focus on in speaking, pitch accent is not doesn't really feature anywhere. I would focus on just learning more of the language, really, and then worry about something like pitch accent later. Pitch accent is never going to stop you being understood. So, given that Japanese is such a big language to learn, it's tough. There's a lot to get, it's going to take a long time. I would just crack on with, growing, practicing reading, learning kanji, learning more vocabulary, and worry about pitch accent another time. Eric says, I got the short stories in the Norwegian book. It looks great. Fantastic. Thank you for the support, Eric. I really appreciate it. It's a cool cover. I don't have it here with me, but glad you liked it. Kevin. Hey, Kevin. Kevin, maybe you have some thoughts on pitch accent. Feel free to chip in. A while ago, you asked me if I was going to be in Japan last year, and I wasn't, but I will be in April. If there's any chance you're going to be there. No, but I will be in August. I'll be in Hokkaido in August, Kevin. Possibly Tokyo, but more likely for a transfer. So, yeah. Abdul Qadir Malik. Hey, Abdul Qadir, good to hear from you. He says, hello, Ollie, should I go through all the uncovered French course before coming back and starting the speaking sections? Or do you think starting with speaking part early is a better option? Good question. People take two routes through the uncovered courses, right? Some people kind of go through step by step and do everything, all the worksheets, all the speaking part, everything, and then just make very slow but steady progress. Other people like to go through the whole course, through all the story, right? Go through the story, go through the video lessons quickly, and then go back to the beginning and do the worksheets and the speaking and stuff later. I think either is fine. It's whatever you prefer to do, whatever makes you feel more motivated. I think if it were me personally, because of my way of learning, I would probably kind of zip through the course as quickly as possible, then go back to the beginning and do it in more depth. Just because you're going to prime your brain with so much more information that way. But it's cool to hear from you, and great to hear that you're getting started with French Uncovered, and good luck with that. Changing scripts, Stephanie, hey, how's it going? Good to hear from you again. Murilo Barbosa says, could you say something in Portuguese? Your Portuguese is amazing, you sound like a Brazilian. O problema com falar em português é que ninguém entende. Então você vai me entender agora, mas as outras pessoas aqui no live não vão entender nada. Então eu não posso continuar a falar muito, mas é isso aí. Tá bom pra você? Assim? Tá bom assim? Eu não falo muito português hoje em dia. Eu preciso sair mais e conhecer mais brasileiros. Tem um monte de brasileiros aqui em Londres, mas todos os meus amigos foram embora. Voltaram para o Brasil ou para outros países mais quentes. Então eu preciso fazer amigos de novo. Okay, that's my Portuguese bit. Stephanie just moved here after years in China. Yeah, that's right, you're in China, I remember. You've learned both German and Chinese. How would you compare the two? Just started learning German this month. I haven't learned German. I don't speak German or Chinese. Fake news, Stephanie. I have learned a bit of German. Not much though. Not much. Ich kann ein bisschen sprechen, aber nicht sehr gut. And I don't speak any Chinese, but I do speak Cantonese. So we could use that as a comparison. How would you compare the two? Oh, German is way easier. German's much easier because you can read from the beginning. The thing about Chinese is you've got Chinese characters to learn, and that is one hell of a task. So I think German's much easier. Obviously, German grammar is harder, but your route into the language is so much easier. So Michael says, Ollie, just out of curiosity, which language is your strongest and which one is your absolute favourite? Strongest, it kind of goes in ebbs and flows actually, because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I'm not actually speaking my language very much at the moment. Because of my the way my life is working out at the moment. So a lot of my language levels kind of going down. They can go up again at any point when I decide to, but it's kind of funny how that goes. In terms of my strongest, if I were to start speaking right now, Spanish probably. And which one's my absolute favourite? It's always been Japanese, even though it's far from my strongest. Chanel. Oh, there's so many questions here, guys. Okay, let's pick up the pace here. Chanel, will you be putting out your Arabic Uncovered course this year? Yes. Gabrielle says, are you going to partake in Michel Thomas Korean Advanced? Probably not. I don't think, but I am on the starter course. So if you guys want to hear me as a student, then you can get the Michel Thomas starter course. Is it starter or based at the beginner? I can't remember what it's called. Michel Thomas Korean for beginners. I'm on there. I'm the student on that course, so that's quite funny. Kevin doesn't know enough about pitch accent. I'm still a beginner, but Dorgan and Matt versus Japan talk a lot about it. Yeah, if you guys, anyone learning Japan here, check out these two YouTube channels, Matt versus Japan and Dorgan. These guys are obscene. Absolutely obscene. But they're so advanced. I think they're so advanced that I think if they talk a lot about it, that's probably a sign that you don't need to worry about it too much right now, Gabby, hey Gabby, good to see you. Question, okay, oral comprehension, blah, 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 a challenge for me. Best way to listen. Okay, so how do you improve your oral comprehension? For me, the kind of long term, obviously, it's just listen a lot, but short term, it's about listening and reading at the same time. So, for example, grab yourself a copy of one of my books, get the audio, and then listen and read at the same time. All right, so you can, start to, you can play the audio first to get your ear, to challenge your ear, and then read along at the same time, and then you can see what you hear, right? So anything that you miss, you can fill in the gaps. Try to read and listen at the same time as much as possible. And thank you for the best wishes. Leung Chi Kin says, hi Ollie, do you have any plans of publishing short stories in Cantonese? Oh man, I would love to, but it's too hard. Because it's too hard because writing in Cantonese. Colloquial Cantonese stories, right? The trouble is, so this is the same reason we haven't done Mandarin, because we've got to use pinyin at the same time. Because otherwise it's too hard. Unless you can read all the Chinese characters, you can't read the stories, right? So you need pinyin. So if we did Cantonese, what would it be? Yale? Yeah. I'd love to, but I don't have a good way to do it yet. Murilo says obrigado. Obrigado a você. Ryan says, hey Ryan, learning French, zipping through the textbook is definitely for me too. Then come back and pick. Yep. Cool. So about this pitch accent again. So Morning Island says, a couple of my colleagues corrected my pitch accent when they taught me a word, so I thought but this is the thing, don't listen to native speakers. You can't listen to native speakers because they will just geek out on trying to help you without realising that they're not helping you at all. They're just focusing you on something that doesn't matter. So they corrected your pitch accent, but they still understood you, right? And that's the main thing. Hey docs. Okay. M. Noivy says, avez-vous terminé votre apprentissage du cantonais? On m'a dit que c'était extrêmement difficile d'atteindre un niveau élevé dans les langues chinoises. Comment estimez-vous votre niveau actuel? Right. So, translation. Have I finished studying Cantonese? I've heard that it's very difficult to reach an advanced level in Chinese languages. How would you estimate your current level? I'd say my study of Cantonese is on sabbatical. I'm not actively learning it at the moment. I haven't for some time. I reached a upper intermediate spoken level. Now it's probably dipped again. I do listen to a fair bit of Cantonese because of my surroundings. So I understand a lot. I don't really speak much at the moment. It is very difficult. You're right. I think with any Chinese language, it's a 10-year project, basically. If you really want to learn it well, I think it's a 10-year project. Okay, Paramori says, what do you think about Glossica? Have you ever used it? Yes, I use Glossica. Not how I like to learn personally, but lots of people love it. So if you enjoy it, then great. I haven't used the new system where it's all online either. Not sure. All right. Lots more comments. Okay, I think I'm going to call it here, guys, because it's been half an hour of Q&A and I'm getting tired, so I'm going to stop. Great to see you guys. Thank you so much. Please give this video a like. If you'd like to share it with anybody, then feel free to do that. But like, and you know what to do. Like and share and comment and say something. You know, that always helps for people to see it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel wherever you're looking at it. Turn on notifications. If you like these live videos with Q&A, turn on the notifications so that you hear about, you find out when I'm on live, and we can come and hang out. You can ask me questions. We can have as Scott Adams says, a simultaneous sip. Thank you very much, guys. See you very soon. Don't forget, SpanishExperienceSummit.com. Lest you forget, it's happening right now. 3 days left. SpanishExperienceSummit.com. See you soon.